recreational vehicle use, they want to take it off you. And if you don't stand your ground, stamp your feet, resist and fight back, that's what will happen. Hey up! Good morning and welcome back. And well, the cat's out the bag now, isn't it? But I'm sure you can recognise what this new bike to my stable is. And thanks to everybody that responded to the little teaser by offering suggestions. At the time of recording this, only one person has got the guess 100% correct. One other person came within a whisker of getting there, just got the older model instead of this, the Mark II, and there was some sort of halfway there because Honda was mentioned. But I hope the thumbnail was something of a clue, because I don't think any other bike looks quite like that at the front. Although, to be fair, it was just a little bit cropped in, wasn't it? But anyway, yes, so here we have a 2003, would you believe, Honda ST1300 Pan European in glorious red, in absolutely immaculate condition. All the usual suspect places on these bikes for having issues are spotless. For example, the front forks, absolutely mint. And would you believe, in what, 19.5 years, this bike has done just 11,835 miles, which is not even run in. You'll know that these Pan-Europeans, particularly the ones that have been used by police forces, ambulance services and the like, not uncommon for them to come onto the market with 80, 90, 100,000 miles plus on the clock, and if properly maintained they'll do that 2 or 3 times over. And if you saw that last video that I did, well, the last but one rather, because the last one was the fitting of jibby panniers to me to my Royal Enfield Intercept 650. The one before that, where I was rambling on in the car, you would have heard the rationale for getting this bike, and that is it basically it came up, and a bike of this age, in this condition, with this mileage, of this make and model, virtually unheard of. And so it had to be done. And although I rode the ST1300 Pan European, a very, very faithful friend for many years back in the day, this still feels very familiar, and the engine feels even more familiar. And the thing, not surprisingly, the thing that I'm having to get used to, well, there were 2 things really. Look at that, I am zipping my jacket up again. I tell you what, I'm a sod for this, particularly when it's like what we got here, something like 6 degrees. I'm a bugger for filling up. and getting my phone out of my pocket to pay for fuel, and then riding off and not doing my jacket up and freezing the old man titties. So anyway, I've settled that now. Where were I? Well, yeah, right, so a couple of things here I'm having to get used to, having sort of ridden my 3 Royal Enfields, Scram, the Classic 350 and the Interceptor for quite some months now, is the power because it's a flying machine. I mean, this is 1300cc, oh, it's 1270 something, anyway, whatever. So it's a 1300cc V4, inline V4. Of course, the later Honda Vs were transverse V4, weren't they? My Honda VFR 1200X Cross Tourer was a V4, but that was a transverse V4. This is an inline V4. But the power is, yeah, just takes a little bit of getting used to if you've not been on a large capacity bike for some time. And the other thing, of course, is the weight. This is a heavy bike. I don't have the data to hand, but if memory serves, it's something like 320 kilos, something like that. So that's significantly heavier than the last big bike I had, which was the BMW R1250 RT. But I have to say, this has a much smoother engine than that bike. So when I've done a bit of riding on this and really come to terms with it and hopefully bonded with it, I will do a little review for the channel, because having looked on YouTube, there aren't that many decent real world detailed reviews about this bike. And I know they haven't made these for the last sort of 8 years. But notwithstanding that, there seems to be something of a paucity of good reviews on this bike. There's one or two, but having watched them, I couldn't really describe them as, well, A, real world, or B, particularly comprehensive and coherent. So I mean, being a 2003 bike, of course, this predates a lot of the fancy gizmos, and all you get on this is ABS. This is the ABS model, so it will be the ST1300A. Some of them came without ABS, but this has ABS. And it has Oxford heated grips fitted, which are going to be better than the Honda original ones, because I had Honda's original heated grips on my ST1100 and they were absolutely bloody. Just going to be a bit careful because the roads are still plenty greasy, as you can probably see. We are coming to the end of January, and it's alternated between freezing cold and icy and wet and windy. This is the first day we've had which has offered what I would consider to be the minimum standard of enjoyable riding. But of course there's still a bit of crud on the roads. So what I've done, as I do with all my bikes, is every exposed nut, bolt and metallic surface I've coated with GT85, not ACF50, because it's a bit too gloopy and sticky for my liking. The only thing with GT85 is it's not all that durable. It does a good job. As a maintenance spray, it does a really good job of protecting the exposed parts from the elements and from the salt. But when you've washed your bike off, you've got to reapply it. It doesn't endure the way that ACF50 and one or two other products do. Now, I feel that I should be wearing, because I'm riding one of these, I should be wearing a yellow vest, shouldn't I? A gilet jaune. A gilet jaune, yeah, because I'm a bit of a rebel. But it's one of them bikes, isn't it, like BMW RTs. Much favoured by the IAM people. And I have to confess, I do have. I do have. I think it's a Merlin. Fluorescent vest. But no fluorescent underpants to go with it. Hey, any road up. My fingers are getting a bit nippy. I might have to put these Oxfords on before too long. Yeah, these bikes tend to have a very loyal following, particularly among people of a certain age, i.e. my age group. The baby boomers love these, and I can see why. You won't think twice about, you know, loading this up. And this one's got the colour-coded large top box, as well as the panniers. You won't think twice about loading this up and just blasting off to the continent. Proper mile muncher. 29 litre tank. That's GS Adventure territory, isn't it, that? And so, you know, should be no need for range anxiety on a Pan European. Right, so just left Squires there, and very pleased indeed to see that the shop at Squires, I think it's called Speed Style, seems to be fully restocked, ready for the new season. Lots and lots of clothing, both textiles and leathers, gloves, boots, bits and bats, you name it. There was some suggestion that it was about to wind up trading last year. That's clearly not the case. So yeah, if you're anywhere in this neck of the woods and you go to Squires for a pot of steam, a cup of scotch, have a look at the shop. Plenty of gear in there. So, first impressions then aboard the Honda ST1300 Pan European. Well, as I think I alluded to earlier, the most appropriate term that I can come up with really is effortless, because it is effortless. In all respects. Handles like a dream, accelerates in any gear you want, bundles upon bundles of torque, uber comfortable, adjustable electric screen to keep out weather, bags of weather protection, and no fancy gizmos, no IMUs, no traction control, no radar. Of course there's no radar. But when this bike came out, if you'd have talked about a motorcycle having any sort of cruise control, never mind the interactive radar based variety, you'd have raised a few eyebrows, I think it's fair to say. So I mean, that's about it basically. It's been the first ride out I've had on this bike since I got it. I've had the Oxford heated grips on, just on the middle setting, because it's how many degrees is it outside now? Oh, a balmy 9, but it was a lot colder than that on the way out. It was about 5, 6, and superb heated grips. Oxfords really do the trick. Better than the Honda ones, or better than the Honda ones used to be, certainly. And an awful lot cheaper. An awful lot cheaper. Just the power from this V4 is endless. Perhaps I've dropped it to 40 because of that one house there. Of course, as entitled as anybody else to have a reduced speed limit on your doorstep. But you have to look at some of the reduced speed limits on some of the roads that were erstwhile 60 miles an hour. And you got to ask yourself, what is going on here? Because in terms of the general road topography and geometry, sometimes it's hard to fathom any sort of road safety argument for reducing the limit. And occasionally they'll come up with some very shakily based scientific argument around emissions. And of course I got a lot of fantastic positive feedback on the back of my last 2 videos but 1. So the two car based ones. I thought folk are going to vanish in droves if I do too many of these, but the feedback's been really good. You know, some of these speed warning signs, I mean, just coming through Tagcaster, sorry, coming into Collingham. Coming into Collingham, there's one there. And as I came past, it said 29 miles per hour, big smiley green face. We like that, don't we? And the bike was doing an indicated 32, which tends to suggest that, like most bikes and cars, that the speedometer overreads something like 8 to 10%. And then I come past one in Boston Spa, just after Collingham, and I go past that at an indicated 28 on the speedo, and it comes up too fast, exclamation mark, red sad face. So in a 30 mile an hour limit, I'm doing 2 mile per hour less indicated, suggesting more than 2 miles per hour less actual speed than the limit, and I'm still getting a sad face and told I'm going too fast. And that's where these things fall down. They sort of fail on their own terms because people give them absolutely no credibility at all. So people know full well that speedos overread, so if they go past any of these at bang on 30 mile an hour, they should know that they're probably doing somewhere between 27 and 30 miles per hour, certainly no more, and yet they're getting angry red faces and slow down signs and the rest of it. So to my mind, they lose credibility on that basis. And don't get me wrong, if you're ripping through 30 mile an hour residential areas at 45 mile an hour, then you deserve to get caught, really. You're asking for it. But as I've referred to before, and I speak with a lot of experience here, as some of you will probably know, speed cameras only work in relation to law-abiding motorists. Okay, and I don't mean law-abiding as in never breaking the speed limit, obviously, because then the argument breaks down immediately. What I mean is speed cameras only work in relation to people who generally own and run their motor vehicles responsibly and legally, because as you know, or you may not know, the fixed penalty notice that you get through the post, or the notice, more likely the what's called the notice requiring you to furnish details of the registered keeper, that requirement to the registered keeper to furnish details of the driver at the material time, that absolutely depends upon the vehicle being correctly and lawfully registered. And of course, in the world of car using criminals, that's almost never the case. So they get away scot-free. I'll just park back there, I think, because if you look back, you'll see I have a couple of videos which question the rationale which is normally wheeled out by various authorities and institutions to justify the proliferation of speed cameras. And if you go back and have a look at that video, you see that I pick it apart slightly, that they do have a positive impact on road casualty numbers, but they cannot take full credit for doing so. There are an awful lot of other factors which come into play. So I park that one there as well. Yeah, on the back of that first in-car video, funny, I mean, not long after that, Stuart Fillingham uploaded another of his interesting critiques, really. I'll give Stuart his due, he does a lot more research. I don't think I would have the time, energy and focus to do the amount of research that he clearly does. But I absolutely agree with the substance of his point in his latest video and in some of the others that he's done. That there's a concerted effort on the part of the authorities, both national and local, without a doubt now, to my mind. And indeed, if you watch Stuart's video, you'll see a Scottish politician absolutely on record in the Scottish Parliament, basically arrogantly and patronisingly saying that the era of private vehicle ownership and use must be brought to an end. I think I'd have a message for that individual. It ends with off. So there can be no doubt in my mind now that this is the, and I don't use the term lightly, it's a crusade by government, both national and local, to make us have it, frankly. And if you watch another channel, have a look at this. What's it called now? It's called Somebody Buys Cars. Is it Gary Buys Cars? It's something like that. I'll put it on the screen. If you go look at, have a look at his channel, and he absolutely pulls apart all the arguments used to justify electric vehicles. I mean, does anybody seriously think that in 2030 the only vehicles you'll be able to buy will be electric? Let me tell you, that ain't going to happen. That's only 7 years ago, and if you think 7 years ago now, what we are, beginning of 2023, 7 years ago, 2016. 2016 ain't that long ago, is it, when you think about it in relative terms? So to think that in 7 years' time you simply will not be able to buy a new internal combustion engine car or commercial vehicle stretches the imagination, to my way of thinking. And not wanting to bore you with war tales, but back when I were a kid, we didn't have a family car. We lived in a terrace house in inner city Bradford. Well, it started off in a little flat in the middle of Manningham, but then we ended up at a terrace house in a place called Thornbury near the Leeds border in Bradford. Little terrace house there. Had a rented television. And with no car. My dad had to rely on bus to get to work. My mum used to walk to work. I used to walk to school. And it feels a little bit ungrateful to say there were grim times, but what you couldn't do is you couldn't travel at all outside of your local neighbourhood. It just didn't happen. So people weren't, by and large, getting in the cars because they didn't have cars. They weren't an affordable prospect for working class people. And so they couldn't just jump in the cars and have a nice run out, say, to the Yorkshire Dales if you lived in Bradford or Leeds, or further out to the Lake District for a day or two, or for a week's holiday. You couldn't do it. And you led a constrained, confined existence within very narrowly defined geographical limits. And it meant that you weren't really at all aspirational, and you were missing a lot of the beauty that the local countryside in the UK can offer. I mean, it wasn't until I started work and scrimped and saved and got a car that I was able to take my by then elderly parents out and let them see and enjoy the countryside. And that's a basic human right, surely. But they want to take that away from us. Recreational vehicle use, they want to take it off you. And if you don't stand your ground, stamp your feet, resist and fight back, that's what will happen. Not good. Right, I think that's enough for today. Thank you for enduring my endless droning on once again. Next video after this is probably going to be another little car share video where I share my thoughts with you from the old boring car. But what I thought I'd do next time is, bearing in mind I have obviously a 30-year policing background and 2 years or 2.5 years of that as a traffic cop, or as they call now, road policing officers. I thought I'd talk a little bit about road traffic legislation, and the bit I'll probably talk about on the next one is the Road Traffic Act as it applies to cyclists, because we all have our views on cyclists, pedal cyclists, and there are provisions within the Road Traffic Act for inconsiderate cycling, and I'm sure we can all think of examples of inconsiderate cycling. But it seems at the moment, you know, that if you ride a bike, you're absolutely beyond reproach and beyond criticism and can do no wrong, and it's not for motorcyclists and car drivers ever to be critical of cyclists, because you just won't be listened to. And if you want an illustration of that, you need look no further than the latest revised version of the Highway Code, which hierarchically positions different road users, starting with the most vulnerable, pedestrians, and then cyclists, and then probably, I don't know, horse riders or whatever, and us before cars, and cars before lorries, and etc. but they're not beyond reproach, and they don't always behave themselves, do they? So I think I'll cover that, and I'll just go into some detail about the relevant provisions of the Road Traffic Act as amended that cover pedal cyclists. Right, okay, thanks for watching. Until next time, ride safe, be kind, and toodle pip.